All right, so my name is Joseph Gancher with Gancher Enterprise. What we actually are going into is a bit of a mini series, and it's with the leader within you. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is going to just jump into the formula of what we would call a plan ahead, and it's just an acronym. And I'm just going to roll right through it. We're probably only going to get through half of it today, and then the next half we'll get it through next weekend. So, here we go. So, when you're looking at the leader within you, you got to for the letter P for plan, right? Plan ahead. There's the lead title there, and that's basically what you want to write on the side of your page there. And we're going to just fill it all out onto the side. So predetermine the change that is needed, and the action is commitment. So I'm going to repeat the action is commitment down the road. But you got to remember, whenever you're planning something, you have to make sure that you're adapting, because there's no way you're going to have a plan and it's actually going to roll out perfectly. Change is going to be needed in this. So this means you got to be fluid. You got to be able to monitor certain things, key indicators. Remember, it's not the small things that'll take you out. Actually, both will take you out, the small and the large, but the big ones you're going to see, and the small ones are going to blindside you. So you just got to remember that whenever you're operating in whatever capacity and whatever type of organization, it doesn't matter what the problems are. It's the small ones that are going to take you out, not the large ones. So you got to predetermine how much of this is going to be happening, and that is the change that is needed to actually adapt to whatever new rollout, or maybe you're trying to change the culture of your organization, or maybe you're trying to change even your leading habits. You got to be able to understand that within this process, you have to predetermine, okay, so if I do this, this is going to happen. And if that happens, what are the consequences or the benefits of how it's all going to happen? Okay, so predetermine that the change is going to be needed, and what does that look like? Okay, so you got to lay out your steps. So make sure that whenever you're planning something, right, you have to plan, you have to understand exactly the journey, the path, or the steps that are required, right? We've all heard of the one acronym of SMART: make specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound goals, okay? But here's the other thing. Did you actually lay out all your steps in what you're trying to achieve? Are you able to have a plan that is easily being reflected on and understand by not just you, but those that are around you that you're selecting to actually expose this to? Because if you're not actually able to expose it to anybody, and they don't understand, what's the whole point? You have to be able to lay out your steps to those key indicated players. Okay, and I don't mean like on a sports team, but I mean just in those organizations, those shakers, the movers, and those that need to actually work things out. Is it going to be easy for them to pick up at a moment's notice, regardless of where they are, and actually achieve that plan that you're trying to roll out? So you have to make sure that your steps are laid out and that are easily understood. And then through that process, you'll have the journey, the path, and everything else. It'll eliminate a partial of the issues, but not a lot of them. Okay, so you just got to make sure you got to lay out your steps, and then also have the variances and saying, okay, when we lay out these steps, are they actually going to be fully executable? If they're not fully executable, then you're going to have to adapt and change and say, okay, so if we have, this is our plan A, so what is our plan B, C, and D? Because if you're not able to adapt and according to what the environmental situation is, so this could be political, this could be internal within your organization, people coming and going, this could be external with your competitors, this could also be logistics, or even legal, even environmental, as far as like knowing, you're like, well, what do you mean talking about the environment? Well, if you're looking at the environment in the sense of what type of footprint are you actually going to be causing in a group environmental setting, or this could also be environmental as in like eco setting. There's many different ways that you could look at the environment. So you just got to make sure that you're fully aware of what you're trying to lay out is going to be easily executable, regardless if there's moving parts within it. You got to make sure that you're able to have the lens of perspective of many different angles that are going to be able to be covered within these types of plans. Okay, so make sure you lay out your steps clearly and concisely, but make sure that they are able to cover all your angles. So, and you have to adjust your game plan at a certain point. Okay, so what does this mean? Adjust your game plan. You know that there's going to be issues. You know that there's going to be problems. So how set is this plan? How set in stone are you making sure that this has to fall into this sequence, into this next step? You have to make sure that you're able to be fluid. You got to be able to move and adjust according to any of those previous factors that I just mentioned. The reason being is because if you don't adjust, the chances of you actually being able to fully roll out what you're trying to achieve is going to be an absolute disaster. Not at the beginning, not at the middle, but around 2/3 to the end, you'll really start to see things kind of really unfold. And then you're going to be pretty much right at the finish line and you're going to fall short. And when you fall short, you're going to fall short really hard and it's going to be absolutely devastating. So just make sure that you got your game plan, but adjust your game plan accordingly. You got to be able to move and adjust to whatever comes your way, because if you don't, you're done. When you're actually looking at the end part of plan, yes, notifying key people is definitely going to help you out, because in especially the larger type of organizations, delegation is key. Equipping, empowering, and educating. That's like my E to the power of 3 kind of a thing. It has to be able to be executed in such a way where you're able to, here you go. You got the you kind of walk them through the 10% of that first part of that project or this plan. Then you want to make sure that everything is laid out so clearly for them that they're able to take it on for the remainder 80%. And the reason being is because you want to come in on the back 10% of whatever this plan is and tidy up all the loose ends and make sure that everything runs flawlessly. Because if it doesn't run flawlessly, I can guarantee you one of your competitors is going to take you out. Even one of your internal staff is going to take you out. Or even worse, someone's going to notify someone else and it'll be third party that'll come in and unfortunately really disturb things that really don't need to be disturbed. So that's what happens when you don't notify key people and have those people properly notified. But who are they? Those are your influencers, implementors within your organization. You're always going to have a meeting before the meeting, and then everything else is going to align to actually the reality is when you roll out the big meeting, it's just a formality. And the formality is we're just making sure that you guys are all on the same page. But actually the reality is that what you're trying to do is make sure that you have your influencers and implementers. And these are your movers and your shakers, the guys that are and gals that kind of get things really like robustly moving. That they have all their questions answered. They are clearly in the know and they know exactly what's to happen if something were to go wrong. These are basically your inner circle people. Okay. So next week, we're going to do the part 4, and that is going to be the leader within you. I'm going to change it up a little bit and maybe get a little more graphical, but at the same time, just make sure that you're always aware. Next week, we're going to be back at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. And until next time, work hard, stay humble. Joseph Ganchar with Ganchar Enterprise. All right, bye for now.